I was whisking eggs on a quiet Saturday when my phone lit up with an unknown number. Ordinary moment. Then the shock. Mrs. Bell, this is Tessa from Premier Vows. Your husband just canceled your invitation to his brother's wedding. He asked us to keep the $50,000 deposit you paid. My hand stopped midair. Hot pan, cold spine. Keep the deposit, I repeated. Yes. He said you'd be gracious about it. I only need your verbal okay. I set the whisk down. It was a life-saving decision disguised as a sentence. No, I said. Cancel the entire wedding. Silence. A small gasp. Ma'am, you're not the bride. I'm not. I'm Mara Bell, 33. And I own the Aurelia Grand, where your clients plan to marry. I also own the catering company and the hotel block they reserved for guests. I kept my voice even. Call your team. Pull the plug. I'll be there in an hour. Before you decide whether I went too far, tell me where you're watching from in the comments. Because to understand why I did this, you need the dark truth of how we got here. I grew up over a 2-story bed and breakfast in Cleveland. My parents ran it with one handwritten ledger and a coffee can of tips. I folded towels, learned guest names, and remembered who liked extra pillows. We were never rich, but people left happier than they arrived. That felt like magic. At 18, I left on a scholarship for business management. I stocked shelves at dawn, tutored at noon, and closed a diner at midnight. Sleep was a rumor. One guest lecturer changed everything. Mirella Costa, a boutique hotel owner, who spoke in checklists and kindness. After graduation, she hired me as an assistant and made me touch every part of the business night audit, housekeeping schedules, vendor fights, brand voice. Hospitality is choreography, she'd say. Every beat must land. At 24, with Morella's modest investment and every dime I'd saved, I bought a dying roadside inn. I reskinned it as a smart design-forward stay. 6 months later, it was full every weekend. I repeated the pattern. Renovate, rebrand, rehire, repeat. By 33, Bellwether Lux Hotels had 12 properties. The Aurelia Grand, my jewel, was a historic property I restored floor by floor. Marble light and sound that made people whisper when they walked in. I stayed invisible on purpose. No name on plaques, no magazine profiles. I watched wealth warp relationships. I wanted to be chosen for who I was, not what I owned. Enter Lucas Mercer, 40, a soft-spoken lecturer in architectural history who could talk for hours about flying buttresses and never ask who sat at which table at a gala. We met at an alumni panel where I spoke as an operations consultant. He noticed my questions, not my shoes. Our first date lasted until the bar stacked chairs. He proposed a year later with a simple ring and a promise of quiet mornings. I didn't tell him about Bellwether. I said I consulted. I said I had savings. We married in a neighborhood restaurant, not in any of my spaces. It felt honest. It also set the trap I didn't see. Lucas's parents, Victor and Elaine Mercer, loved appearances. Victor was a banker with a voice made for closing rooms. Elaine curated charity boards like handbags. Their home had crystal decanters no one drank from. Lucas's younger brother Damon, 30, worked in commercial real estate and liked to call himself a closer. The subtle digs began early. Elaine's what a practical outfit, Mara. Victor's consulting, must be convenient. Damon's will get you into the right crowd. I smiled. I absorbed. It's how you survive a lobby full of demanding guests. You nod and redirect. But each Sunday dinner felt like a test I hadn't agreed to take. Then Damon brought home Sloane Hart. Tall, polished, daughter of Conrad Hart, a developer whose projects often tried to poach my staff. She was kind to waiters and sharp with me. The engagement came fast. The venue choice came faster. We booked. The Aurelia Grand. Damon announced over roast beef like it was his trophy. My fork paused. The Aurelia. My flagship. My heart. It's the only place worthy of Sloane, Elaine trilled. And the connections Conrad's guest list will be enviable. I said nothing. I wanted to see who they were when they believed I was no one. Later in private, I called my executive assistant, Rena. Apply the Heritage client discount to the Mercer Hart wedding, I said. Charge the deposit to Bellwether Corporate. I told myself it was generosity, a peace offering. The truth, I was trying to buy grace from people who priced everything. As plans grew, Lucas grew tense. There'll be donors' trustees, he muttered, studying tie pins he never wore. He started missing dinners for family planning meetings. I wasn't invited. Too many voices, he said. It's boring details. Boring details like seating charts where my name never appeared. I found one in a folder on our desk. Family table, Victor. Elaine, Damon, Sloan, Lucas. Empty chair where my name should have been. I walked it to Lucas. It's a draft, he said too quickly. You shouldn't snoop. A week later, Elaine accidentally scheduled dress shopping without me, then told me pastels would photograph better on women with your undertone. At the engagement dinner, they sat Lucas with the family and tucked me at a table of Damon's colleagues. He mouthed, "I'm sorry," across the room. He never moved. His phone grew secretive, his tone grew careful. One morning while he showered, it buzzed with a text preview I can't unsee. Damon, did you fix the MB problem yet, Lucas? Working on it. Don't push. MB, my initials. A problem. I stared at the locked screen at my reflection in black glass. The responsible one. The invisible one. The problem. The confirmation came by accident. An email from Elaine to the planner, copied to a junior coordinator at the Aurelia, who forwarded it to Rena because the venue name matched our chain. Subject, seating revision. Body. Please remove Mara Bell from all arrangements. Lucas will attend alone. This is final. Rena sent it with a single line. Thought you should see. Something shifted, not a snap, a clean break. I didn't confront Lucas that night. I watched him pack a tux and pretend we were fine. I watched him choose peace with his parents over respect for his wife. He kissed my cheek. One day, he said, "Don't take it personally." It was personal. It was the point. Then Tessa called about my invitation and my money, and I chose. After I hung up, I called 3 people in under 2 minutes. Anthony, I told the Aurelia's GM, we're canceling the Mercer Hart wedding. Pause all prep. Secure all back of house. I'll be there before guests arrive. Yes, Ms. Bell. No surprise in his voice. He'd seen me carry bigger fires. Rachel, I told our catering director, stop service, hold product, document everything, full chain of custody, on it. Rena, I said, last, send me every invoice tied to this event, and a clean paper trail showing Bellwether paid the deposit. Forward it to my personal email. I showered, put on a black suit, and clasped my grandmother's simple pearl necklace. I looked like a CEO because I am one. I looked like a wife who'd run out of second chances because I was. The Aurelia Grand sits on a corner that makes the sun love it. Today the light felt cold. Staff whispered into headsets. Florists paused mid-arch. People moved the way people move when the music stops. Anthony met me at the service entrance. The family's in the Valencia room, he said quietly. They're demanding answers. Good, I said. They'll get them. I took a breath on the threshold. My 2 lives had stayed parallel for 3 years. Today they crossed. The Valencia room smelled like peonies and panic. A makeup artist crouched by a gold chair, dabbing at a smudge on Sloane's cheek. Elaine stood near the window's voice, pitched high enough to skate on glass. Victor barked into his phone as if sheer volume could undo what was already set in motion. Damon paced a figure 8 in polished shoes that squeaked. A junior coordinator tried to disappear into a velvet curtain. I stepped inside. Anthony slipped in behind me and closed the door, muting the clatter of staff in the hallway. The room noticed. Elaine's eyes swept me from pearls to shoes. Mara, what are you doing here? Guests are arriving, and the venue is having an episode. The venue isn't having an episode, I said. It's following instructions. Damon stopped pacing. Instructions from who? Anthony answered calm as a tide. From Ms. Bell. Elaine tensed. From the manager, you mean? Anthony didn't look away. From the owner. Silence hit like an elevator stopping. Sloane's hand froze around a handkerchief. Victor lowered his phone slowly. Damon's mouth formed a small O and stayed there. I set my bag on a credenza, pulled out a thin red folder, and placed it on a mirrored table. In this packet, you'll find copies of the contract, the invoice, and the payment confirmation for the deposit. The entity listed is Bellwether Lux. I signed for Bellwether. Victor recovered first. That proves you have access, not that you have authority. I flipped the top page. Bellwether Lux is my holding company. The Aurelia Grand is one of 12 properties under it. The catering company is ours. The hotel block ours. Damon gave a dry laugh that didn't reach his eyes. You're kidding. Anthony spoke again steady. She isn't. Sloane stood the lace at her wrists, trembling. You own this place. I do. Her expression shifted from shock to something like recognition, the way people look when a painting suddenly makes sense. Elaine found her footing. If that's true, then you've blindsided us with what a secret empire. That's not gracious. It's calculated. I kept my voice level. No one blindsided you. I chose privacy. Your emails blindsided me. Victor frowned. What email? I lifted another paper. Copies of correspondence from Elaine Mercer to Premier Vows with a directive to remove me from all arrangements. Lucas would attend alone. A door clicked. Lucas slipped in eyes, darting until they landed on mine. He read the room faster than most. His shoulders sagged. Mara, he said softly. We should talk. We are, I said. Elaine moved between us. This is not the moment for marital bickering. Sloane has a ceremony and Anthony when? Anthony checked his watch. 45 minutes, Mrs. Mercer. 45 minutes, Elaine repeated like time would obey. Damon planted his hands on the table. Explain this. Why cancel our wedding? You canceled my invitation and tried to keep my money, I said. You treated me like a stain you could edit out. That was your choice. This is mine. Lucas took a step closer. I told them it was one day. I told them you'd understand. You told them I was a problem, I replied. His jaw worked. I didn't say, fix the MB problem, I recited. Your words or Damon's doesn't matter. Everybody understood the message. Color rose on Damon's neck. We were managing a situation. Managing a wife, I said. Let's not dress it up. Sloane shifted her bouquet from one hand to the other. I wasn't told any of this. Elaine's smile hardened. Sloane, darling, this is family business. Sloane lifted her chin. I'm minutes from joining this family. I want to know how it treats people. That drew a blink from Victor. He studied her like she'd moved on a chessboard he hadn't seen. Anthony cleared his throat, his signal that the building itself had started to hum. Ms. Bell's staff are asking how to proceed. Do we flip the space for a charity benefit? Or do we hold while you decide? Damon hissed. You wouldn't dare. I turned to him. I planned for both outcomes. If the wedding doesn't proceed, we'll pivot the room into a gala for a local shelter and deliver the menu as a fundraising dinner at cost. The flowers go to the oncology ward. The band plays. People still eat. No waste. But your name won't be on a single program. Sloane's eyes widened. You already thought of that. I run events for a living. Lucas closed the gap and lowered his voice. Mara, can we step outside? No, this needs witnesses. He flinched. That's not fair. Neither was asking a woman to swallow humiliation because it's only one day. He couldn't argue with that without looking worse than he already did. His hands fell to his sides. Victor adjusted his cufflinks. Let's be adults. We underestimated you. That's unfortunate. But this wedding carries weight for my clients and for Sloane's family. If you're as capable as you claim, you'll find a way to keep personal matters out of business. Personal matters became business when the emails went to my staff. Elaine exhaled through her nose. All right, you've made your point. We apologize for the oversight. I glanced at Anthony. He didn't roll his eyes, but his mouth twitched. That's not an apology, I said. That's PR. What would satisfy you, Victor asked. Truth, accountability, boundaries, Damon scoffed. Speak English. 3 conditions, I said, counting them off. First, a real apology from each of you for the way I've been treated. Not because I own anything, but because I'm a human being and a member of this family. Second, I'm restored to the family roles you erased. Photos, seating, all of it. Third, at the reception, Victor and Lucas will each take the microphone and correct the story. They'll name the harm and name the change. Elaine's mouth fell open. You want a public spectacle? I want a record. Damon looked to Victor. We can't let her dictate. Enough, Victor said, not loudly, but in a way that cut. He turned to me. If we agree, the wedding proceeds. Yes, with my staff respected and my person acknowledged. He weighed it. Men like Victor do that calculate before they feel. Finally, he nodded. You have my apology, Mara. I misjudged you. That's on me. He meant it as far as he was capable. That was something. Elaine's throat moved. I am sorry. I should have welcomed you. Instead, She swallowed. I was unkind. Her phrasing wasn't perfect, but it had edges of truth. Damon shoved his hands in his pockets. I'm sorry, he said like the words tasted bad. You shouldn't have been cut out. It was disrespectful. Sloane's gaze flicked between faces. Thank you, she murmured almost to herself. Anthony looked at Lucas. Mr. Mercer? Lucas's eyes were wet, not from show, but from shame that had finally caught up to him. I betrayed you, he said to me, and no one else. I stood by while my family cut you down. I didn't protect you. I'm sorry. It wasn't dramatic, it was plain. And it landed. I nodded to Anthony. Tell the team the wedding proceeds on schedule. Paige will handle photo revisions. Seat me with my husband at the family table. And someone get Sloane a glass of water. Sloane let out a breath she'd been holding and sank into the chair gown, settling around her like a cloud. Thank you. We're not done, I said, softer. But we can walk forward. Anthony touched his headset. Copy. We're live. He slipped out, already issuing instructions to a small army. Elaine hovered near Sloane, smoothing her veil with hands that finally shook. We'll have to redo the procession. I reached for the timeline on the console and marked it with a pen, like I had 1,000 times. We'll trim pre-ceremony photos and move the first look to the balcony. It gives the light another 20 minutes to soften. Guests won't notice if we cue the quartet early. Sloane stared. How do you have brain space for lighting right now? It's what I do when I'm angry, I answered. I choreograph. 2 minutes later, Anthony returned with Paige, our photo lead, and an assistant burdened with a steamer. Family photos, Paige said, glancing at me for direction. We'll start with immediate family, and the couple, then extended family, then friends. Ms. Bell, I'm in the immediate group. Elaine's jaw twitched. She didn't protest. We moved like a pit crew at a race. Damon's boutonniere needed repinning. Someone had trimmed Sloane's bouquet too short. I grabbed floral tape and added a hidden length of stem for grip. Victor's tie knot sat crooked. I fixed it with a simple adjustment he would never acknowledge as help. The room began to breathe like a room again. Lucas hovered. When I passed him a lint roller, he held my hand a second longer than necessary. Thank you, he whispered, for not burning it down. Don't thank me yet, I said. As we lined up for family shots, Paige lifted her camera and did what good photographers do, made order from a tangle. Mercer parents here, she said, tapping a tape mark on the floor. Damon to the groom's right. Ms. Bell beside your husband. Perfect. The word beside did something in my chest I didn't have a label for. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But a reminder of position. I stepped into place. Lucas's sleeve brushed mine. We both noticed and didn't move. Paige shot efficiently, instincts tuned to the room's undercurrent. Between frames, she said, if anyone needs breaks, tell me. Hydration over heroics. She winked at Sloane, who nodded gratefully. When the first sequence ended, Victor's phone buzzed again. He glanced and muted it. He looked at me, then at Sloane, then back at me. What do you need from me in that toast? The truth, I said? In your own words. Don't flatter me, don't spin, admit the wrong, name the change. He grimaced. I've built a career on never admitting either. You can build a life on something better. He didn't answer, but for the first time since I'd known him, he looked like a man who saw two paths. We walked to the terrace for the first look. The city threw light across the stone the way I'd designed it to. Sloane stood with her back to Damon's dress, catching the breeze. Damon's foot tapped the way Lucas's did when he lectured. Nervousness looks the same on brothers. Paige counted down. 3, 2, 1. Damon turned. His face did that thing the right face does when it sees the right person in white. Even with everything, it was pure. Sloane laughed and cried at once. Damon wiped his cheek with the back of his hand and whispered something I didn't catch. For a minute, none of us were anything but witnesses to a moment. When we came back inside a planner from Premier Vows, Tessa hovered at the threshold like a child told to apologize. Ms. Bell, yes, she swallowed. I had no idea about any of it. It wasn't my place to question. I'm sorry. You did your job, I said. Do it now better. She nodded. We will. A bell chimed. Guests took their places. The string quartet slid into the prelude I'd picked years ago because it made people stand taller without knowing why. I slipped into the hall as the processional formed. My staff watched me pass with a mixture of affection and alertness. The head server, Lily, who started as a hostess and could now run a floor with her eyes closed, touched her heart in a small salute. I gave one back. At the doors, Lucas stood with me. He looked young for the first time in a long time. After he said, "Can we talk in your office?" I don't know yet, I said. Honesty felt kinder than dangling hope. The music shifted. Pairs began to walk. Damon took his place near the altar. Sloane and her father waited for their cue. Elaine squeezed Sloane's hand, then turned to me. Thank you, she said softer than I'd ever heard. I nodded. Be good to her. She nodded back like maybe she could be. Sloane stepped forward, veil lifting in a small accidental wave, as the AC whispered over the balcony. The doors opened. People stood. That sound, hundreds of shoes on carpet, a collective inhale, always hits me. Today, it landed with a weight and a lift at once. I slid into my seat at the front beside Lucas. Not behind, not in overflow. The chair had my name card at its edge, because Anthony had replaced the old ones himself. I touched it. The card meant less than the habit it rewrote. The ceremony was brief and clean, the way modern vows often are. The officiant spoke about partnership and respect words that used to sound like wallpaper to me. Today, they rang like a clock. Damon and Sloane exchanged rings with shaky smiles. When they kissed, the room applauded like it wanted a happy ending. After the recessional, the cocktail hour rushed the courtyard. Champagne surfaced. Trays of crab cones and truffled arancini floated past. I saw vendors moving with confidence, and guests doing what guests do, gossiping, angling for photos, deciding which corner held the best light for Instagram. The machine ran again. Victor approached with 2 flutes and offered me one, like a rook moving diagonally for the first time. To truces, he said. To receipts, I countered. He smiled despite himself. To receipt. Elaine joined us, smoothing hair that didn't need it. I've told the florist the peonies in the ladies' room should go to the rehab center tomorrow, she said. I remembered what you said about waste. Thank you, I said. They'll make someone's Tuesday. She took a sip and hesitated. I did say ugly things about you, Mara. Not because of who you are, but because of who I wanted my sons to appear to be. That doesn't excuse it. But I want you to hear me say I was wrong. Real contrition sits differently in the air. It's heavier and warmer. I let it be what it was. Thank you, I said. Change it going forward. I will, she said, and for once I believed her enough to let the next hour proceed. Lucas hovered at the edge like a man outside a confessional. He didn't push. That was new. When a donor cornered him to talk cathedrals, he listened, then excused himself when he caught my eye, another small change I filed away for later. We moved into the ballroom. The Aurelia glowed the way she was built to. Candlelight reached up and touched the chandeliers. The band eased into a Gershwin standard. Place cards guided people to tables that made sense to me, balance chemistry exits. The Mercer table had been reset, Victor and Elaine in the center, Damon and Sloane to their right, Lucas and me to their left. The sight drew commentary and whispers. I didn't mind. Let it spread. Dinner began. Plates lifted and landed with silent grace. The duck was perfect. Rachel had found a last-minute early cherry to pair with it. Watching her grin when she saw someone's eyes widen at the first bite made me almost forget the morning. Halfway through the entrees, Victor stood and tapped his glass. The band softened. Conversations folded. He took the microphone. He looked at the couple and smiled in a way that wasn't just for the room. Friends? He began, voice steady through the speaker. Tonight is for Damon and Sloane. But before we celebrate, I need to say something I should have said earlier and privately, and for that, I apologize as well. He glanced at me. I judged someone in our family by a false measure. I valued reputation over relationship. I forgot that respect isn't a reward you earn after proving your worth. It's the baseline we owe each other. I'm sorry, Mara. Heads turned. Some recognized me. Some put together the rumors that had started at cocktail hour. A few looked confused and then pretended they'd always known. Victor continued, To Damon and Sloane, may you stand up for each other when it's inconvenient. May you choose each other when people expect you to choose them. That's marriage. He raised his glass. The room followed. To Damon and Sloane. Sloane's eyes shone. Damon looked at me and gave a small nod. It wasn't an alliance. It was acknowledgement. Lucas's turn came. He took the mic, looked at his brother, then at me. I prepared a different speech, he said. I threw it away. Damon, I love you. I'm proud of the man you're becoming. Sloane, welcome. You're sharper than we deserve. Laughter bubbled and eased the room. He turned serious. Mara, he swallowed. I failed you. I failed the promise we made when we said we'd be teammates. I thought the way to keep peace was to keep you quiet. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I won't stand by like that again. No metaphor, no defense. His voice shook. I didn't let myself look down. He finished with a story from our first date about coffee and maps, and why we love buildings that outlast us. People laughed and dabbed eyes and clinked forks against glass. The band swelled. Relief moved through the room like a draft. For the next hour, the night did what nights like this are supposed to do. It carried people. A little girl in a tulle dress twirled until she fell and giggled on the parquet. Elaine actually danced. Victor tried, failed, and laughed at himself. Sloane glowed the way brides glow when they chose right, even if everything around them wasn't yet fixed. At some point, a man from Conrad Hart's circle approached. "Ms. Bell," he asked carefully, "we met at a hospitality summit in Denver. I didn't realize you were connected to the Mercers." "Neither did they," I said. He barked a laugh, startled and delighted. "You're a legend in procurement circles," he said, then flushed. "I mean that as a compliment. I'll take it. Word travels fast in rooms like this." I could feel it moving, the recalibration, the new math. I didn't care about that nearly as much as I cared about Lily catching a tray on the edge and saving 6 champagne flutes in one impossible motion. She grinned at me, and I felt the kind of pride money can't buy. Near dessert, Sloane slipped to my side. "I heard something this morning," she said quietly. "Before the storm." "What was it?" She glanced at Elaine, then at Damon, who was laughing with a college friend. "Elaine told the planner that the photos would be cleaner without you. She said you were training wheels Lucas hadn't outgrown. I need you to know that I shut it down. Not loud enough, obviously, but I said it wasn't okay." "Thank you," I said. My voice didn't crack. Small victory. "I also need you to know," she continued, eyes steady, "that if this family treats you like that again, I'll be the one making a scene." "You'll fit in here just fine," I said. She smiled, relieved. "I think I will." We cut cake. We signed an EAC book. We lit sparklers and didn't burn the building. Old aunties kissed cheeks. Young friends plotted after parties. I watched, breathed, and cataloged 100 details no one else saw: a candle dying, a heel wobbling, a server catching the wobble with a steady hand, and a joke. Hospitality is 1,000 saves. So is marriage. When the band took a break, I slipped away to my office. The room smelled like cedar and paper. The city glowed in the window like a second ceiling. I closed the door and leaned my forehead against the cool glass. My pulse finally slowed. A knock. Lucas stood there uncertain. "May I?" I hesitated, then stepped aside. He looked around like a tourist. "This is you," he said, not meaning the furniture. "It is. I'm sorry I didn't try to see it sooner. I hid it," I said. I told myself I had good reasons. Some of them were good, some were fear. He nodded. "I let my family decide who you were to me." "That's on me." We stood in the quiet hum of an expensive building, doing what it was made to do. He waited while I decided what I could give tonight. "You set a boundary out there," I said. "You didn't ask me to move it for you. That matters. I'll keep doing it," he said. "I'll need more than tonight to believe that." "I know." He glanced at the desk. I had spread the contracts earlier, not to intimidate, but to steady myself with familiar shapes. He traced the edge of one page without touching it. "I loved you because you weren't impressed with me," he said. Turns out I wasn't brave enough to be unimpressive to my parents. The line hurt because it rang true. "We were both hiding different halves of ourselves," I said. "That's not a whole marriage." He blew out a breath. "Can we build one?" "I don't know yet." He nodded, accepting the uncertainty without bargaining. Another small change. We went back to the ballroom. The last set was pure joy. People who never danced danced. Victor made a joke with a busboy and didn't make it about status. Elaine hugged Sloane's mother, awkward but real. Damon cried during the mother-son dance and didn't pretend he wasn't. The night softened a hard day. When it ended, we sent the couple off through a tunnel of sparklers. Sloane leaned back into Damon's chest, eyes closed, face tilted to the light. They disappeared into a car that smelled like vanilla and leather and decisiveness. Guests drifted toward elevators. Staff began their precise teardown. My feet ached, the satisfying ache of a job finished under fire. Victor and Elaine approached. Elaine took my hands. "We'll be different," she said. "Hold us to it." "I will," I said. My voice didn't need to be sharp anymore. It just needed to be clear. Victor stuck out his hand. I shook it. "We'll speak soon," he said. "About nothing to do with money." "Good," I said. "Start with Sunday dinner." He grimaced like a man facing spinach. "We'll try." After they left, Lucas lingered. "Where will you sleep?" "In the penthouse," I said. "I need space." He nodded. "Will you have breakfast with me tomorrow? Public place? Neutral ground?" "I'll let you know in the morning." He accepted that too. We were learning a new grammar. I walked the floor with Anthony. He handed me a clipboard. "You did the right thing," he said. I did the necessary thing. "Same difference most days," he said, then pointed to a stray program and a crooked votive. "These two are trying to ruin my perfect clothes." "Not on my watch," I said, and we both laughed for the first time all day. I rode the service elevator up. The doors opened to a hallway I'd designed to be quiet even when the building wasn't. In the penthouse, I kicked off my shoes and sank onto the sofa. My phone buzzed. A text from Rena. "Everything reconciled. Deposit trail is clean. Staff fed. Rachel is a hero. Also, Lily saved 6 flutes like a ninja." I smiled. "Tell them I'm proud," I typed back. "Tell Lily she's getting the weekend she asked for." Outside, the city kept its own council. Inside, I let the day fall away piece by piece. I didn't know yet what I'd choose with Lucas. I only knew I wouldn't go back to the woman I'd been when the day started, the one who made herself small to keep the peace. I turned off the lamp. The room went soft. Tomorrow would bring conversations I wasn't ready for and decisions I was no longer afraid to make. And if you think the wedding toast was the last surprise of that night, wait for the call that came after midnight, the one that blew open a secret that wasn't mine to keep. The call came at 12:41 a.m., the kind that vibrates across a dark room and makes your heart stand up. "Mara, it's Sloane." Her voice was small and clipped like she'd been running or crying. Maybe both. "Are you safe?" I asked. "Yes." "I'm in the bridal suite. Damon's downstairs." "Somewhere." She swallowed. "I found something. I don't think I should have. I don't know who else to call." "Come up," I said. "Penthouse. I'll meet you at the elevator." I slid into flats, pulled on a sweater over the black suit, and rode down to meet her. The elevator doors opened on a bride out-of-time veil-off hair, looser lipstick gone, the dress gathered in her hands so she wouldn't step on her own train. She clutched a navy folder against her ribs like a life jacket. We rode up together in silence. She stared at the floor numbers like each one was a test. In the room, I guided her to the sofa set, water in front of her, and waited. She put the folder on the coffee table and didn't let go. "I wasn't snooping," she said. "I was looking for a safety pin." I nodded. "Tell me what you found." She opened the folder. Inside, printed emails, a signed term sheet, and a one-page form I recognized and hated on sight. UCC1 financing statement. Debtor Bellwether Lux Holdings, LLC. Secured party Valencia Partners, LLC. Collateral. All FF&E of the Aurelia Grand and proceeds therefrom. Debtor signature Mara Bell. My name. In a handwriting that wasn't mine. I didn't touch the paper. Where was this? In Elaine's tote. I reached in and my hand hit the clip. I pulled it out. "I saw your name and..." She looked up. "Is this bad?" "It's worse than bad if it's filed," I said. "It's a lien. Anyone can file one. Sometimes it's a mistake. Sometimes it's a weapon. Either way, it handcuffs you until you fight it." She blinked. "I don't speak finance. It's a claim on the hotel's furniture and equipment. If that gets recorded, my credit lines freeze." Vendors pause. I spend weeks cleaning it up while someone else gets leverage. What someone she asked, though, I saw she already had a guess. I lifted the first page without letting the edges slip. An email on Victor's letterhead to a fixer with a familiar reputation, file Monday 9:15 a.m. Exactly. Don't send confirm to my primary. Use the alias. If she balks before, then we pivot to plan B. Below that, a scanned LOI, non-binding, but loud stating Valencia Partners, exclusive negotiation rights to acquire the Aurelia at a pre-agreed valuation based on distressed conditions. Signature blocks for the buyer, for Maribel seller, and for Victor Mercer advisor. My signature again. Neat, confident, not mine. I felt something cold spread under my ribs. Then the heat came. "Who is Valencia Partners?" Sloane asked. "A heart shell," I said. "Or a friend of your father's." "Valencia is the name of the room we used today." "Cute." Sloane flinched. I didn't know. "I believe you," I said. Where did you get the emails? Elaine left her phone unlocked on the vanity. I forwarded them to myself. Then panic hit. I put the phone down and did the first look and told myself I didn't see what I saw. She looked at the UCC again. After the reception, I went back for the folder. How deep is your father in this? I asked. She shook her head. I don't know. I haven't told him I found it. All right. I inhaled, exhaled. The room steadied. 2 tracks, legal and human. Legal is easy. We stop the filing before it lands. Human is harder. We decide who gets told and when. Damon will think I betrayed him. Damon was here to win before he was here to wed, I said. He brought this into your wedding. Not you. She stared at her hands, the ring catching moonlight. I wanted tonight to be clean. It wasn't, was it? Some parts were, I said. Those still count. I called Rena. She picked up on the first ring because she always picks up on the first ring. Tell me you're sitting down, I said. I'm standing, she said. Now I'm sitting. Go! I kept my voice flat so she could hear the lines, not the panic. We have a pending UCC1 filing against Bellwether by Valencia Partners Monday 9/15. Forged signature. There's an LOI, too. I need Ezra on the line, and I need an email to the filing office tonight. Fraud alert, identity theft, the works. Also start a vendor reassurance plan in case something leaks. On it, she said, typing. Who's Valencia? Likely a heart vehicle. Loop Ezra on that. I'm texting him. He's awake because he plays chess with people in Tokyo when he can't sleep. Bless insomnia, I said. Rena's keyboard clacked like a sparrow. I've got Ezra. 3-way in 10. Sending you a secure link. Rena, I added, call Anthony. Ask if anyone accessed my office between 5 and 7, just in case. Copy? Anything else? Tell Lily she's a ninja, I said. Then get me the notary commission number on that LOI. We're going to blow this up carefully. Sloane watched me run the play with the look of someone seeing a different version of a person they thought they knew. Not bigger, just clearer. Do you hate me? She asked finally, raw. No, I said, but I hate what our families teach us counts as love. Her eyes filled. She nodded like that line fit a puzzle. A Kime. Ezra joined. I hear there's a UCC gremlin, he said, voice dry. More than one, I said, and walked him through the documents while Sloane listened. Ezra asked for the filing office's overnight fax. Yes, they still exist, and dictated a short lethal paragraph to stake our claim before the other side could stake theirs. Rena sent it before he finished talking. Done, she said, time-stamped, filed, and I pulled the notary's commission number. It's valid, but the embossing in the scan doesn't match the current seal format. Either someone used an old stamp or a counterfeit. Either way, yikes. Ezra hummed. Good catch. I'll draft a cease and desist to Valencia Partners and... We're not sending it to Valencia, I said. We're sending it to Conrad Hart CC Victor Mercer. Sloane winced at her father's name. Mara, I don't do shadows, I said. Not when they're aiming at my people. Ezra didn't argue. He liked it when I came with a knife and paperwork. And Mara, he said, tighten digital access to your signature. Another biometric layer. Assume someone took a scan. Already on it, Rena said. We're cycling token codes across legal and finance. Thank you, I said, then ended the call before we lost the adrenaline and the clarity. Sloane had gone pale. What happens if they push back? Then we push harder, I said simply. But first we tell Lucas. She flinched again. He didn't. I know, I said. He needs to choose where he stands before the sun comes up. I texted him penthouse. Now. He knocked 4 minutes later. He stepped inside and stopped. Sloane. Me. Folder. It didn't take long for him to know this was not a misunderstanding we could iron out over eggs. What is it, he asked. Sit, I said. I handed him the top page. He read. He didn't blink. His face did something I'd never seen it close, then opened wider than before. That's your signature, he said to me. Except it isn't. Correct, I said. Monday at 9:15 a.m., someone planned to file a lien against my company and then waive an LOI to force an exclusive negotiation process and then leak it to rattle my lenders. The name on the email arranging the timing belongs to your father. Lucas set the paper down carefully, as if it might bite. Why? Because leverage, I said. Because I said no once, and someone wanted to build a machine to make me say yes. Maybe they planned to buy the Aurelia on a distressed discount. Maybe they wanted a piece of Bellwether at a price they could brag about at dinner. He looked at Sloane. And you found this. In Elaine's tote, she said. I forwarded emails before the ceremony, then panicked. I'm sorry I didn't say something sooner. You said it now, Lucas said. His voice was quiet and clear. Thank you. He reached for his phone. I shook my head. Not yet. Mara, he said I can't not call him. You can, I said. For 10 minutes. Rena has Ezra on it. We blocked the filing. We document, then we confront. Otherwise, he rewrites it while we're talking. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Old Lucas would have argued. Tonight's Lucas waited. A hard knock hit the door. Not security, not housekeeping. A knock you hear when someone believes they belong wherever they go. Damon. Mara, he called through the wood, we need to talk. Sloane's fingers tightened around the folder. She looked at me, and I nodded. Lucas opened the door. Damon walked in fast, stopped when he saw the table and recalculated. He looked like a groom who had lost the plot 20 minutes after curtain call. Sloane, why did you leave? He saw the UCC form. What is this doing here? What is it, Damon? I asked. Nothing. He smiled a smile he used on bankers. Just a protective measure. It's standard. Then why is my signature forged? I kept my tone even. Let him hear himself. His jaw flexed. Elaine said you'd sign. After the toasts, she said, consider it a family gift if you needed a reason. Sloane made a small sound. Elaine promised you could spring this on her on our wedding night. Damon turned to her like he'd forgotten she was in the room. Sloane, it's business. We do business. Not inside my dress, she said, voice shaking. Not with forged signatures. He shot Lucas a pleading look. Tell them, this is how deals happen. It's pressure. It's theater. Lucas didn't help him. It's fraud. Damon turned back to me, temper rising. You humiliated our family this morning, and we still let your hotel host the wedding. You owe us some flexibility. I don't owe you my company, I said. And I didn't humiliate anyone. I stopped a humiliation in progress. He laughed and looked at the ceiling, then at Lucas again. You see, this is what Dad meant. She doesn't understand our world. Sloane stepped between them, shaking but steady. Maybe your world is the problem. No one asked you, Damon snapped, and the room changed. Something in Lucas's posture went from apology to warning. Don't talk to my wife like that, Lucas said. Simple. Clean. Damon looked at him like he'd switched teams in the middle of the game. You're taking her side. Yes, Lucas said. Because it's the right side. Damon's face went bright then flat. He looked at the folder again, desperate for a script. All right, he said. Fine. The lien doesn't file until Monday. We can fix this. Dad knows how to smooth it. Let me call him. He'll explain. You should call him, I said. Put it on speaker. He glared, then dialed. Victor picked up on the second ring. Son, he said, is Sloane with you? Elaine is. You filed a lien against Mara, Damon said before Victor could steer. Or you plan to. They know. A beat. Victor didn't gasp. He reorganized. I see. Lucas cut in. You forged my wife's signature. I did not, Victor said. We have the scan, I said. We have the email. We have the notary number. We've already notified the filing office and our counsel. There won't be a lien at 9:15. He exhaled into the phone like a man who finally realizes he is not in the elevator he thought he was in. Mara, you've misunderstood our intention. Say your intention out loud, I said. To me, to your sons. Silence hummed. Then leverage, he said, clinical. We wanted a seat at a table you built without us. We wanted to protect Damon from the next market cycle. We wanted to make sure you couldn't punish our family by withholding access to a resource. A resource, Sloane whispered. You mean her company? Victor did not apologize. Mara is formidable, he said, as if praising my golf swing. Leverage balances formidable. And fraud balances what Ezra texted me just then, cease and desist drafted. Want me to send? I replied. Hold. Listening. Lucas cleared his throat. Dad, you went after my wife's livelihood. I went after a deal, Victor said. You and your brother have never understood that personal and professional are not the same. They are when you use our wedding, Sloane said. They are when you recruit Elaine to carry documents in her tote. A tiny intake of breath on the line. Then Elaine's voice, small but present. Mara, are you there? I am, I said. I shouldn't have let it go that far, she said. I told Victor it felt dirty. He said it was sophisticated. I prefer clean, I said. I see that now, she said. It wasn't enough. It was something. Victor's tone cooled. Mara, consider this your warning. You have power now because we misread you. We won't make that mistake again." "Good," I said. "Learn something from today." He hung up. Damon stared at his phone like it betrayed him. "He'll calm down," he said to no one. "This is noise." "It's not noise," Sloane said. She sat down, as if her body wasn't sure which way was up. "You brought forged papers to our wedding." He looked at her finally. Really looked. "I did it for us," he said. "That's what people say when they've already chosen themselves," she answered. He didn't have a comeback. Lucas rubbed his face and looked a decade older. "Mar," he said, "send whatever you need to send." "Rena will," I said, "and Ezra, and me." As if summoned, my phone buzzed. "Anthony." 2 things he said when I answered. 1, building logs show no one accessed your office today, except you and me. 2, the night manager just received a voicemail from a city liaison asking to schedule a compliance walkthrough at the Aurelia at 7 a.m. tomorrow. Anonymous number. Sounds like a pressure move. Sloane closed her eyes. "My father," she whispered. "Maybe," I said. "Maybe Victor. Maybe someone who owes them. Either way, we'll be ready." I hung up and looked at the 3 people in my living room. The family I'd married. The family I hadn't chosen, but still had. "We're done for tonight," I said to Damon. "You can go." "You can't kick me out of," he began, then remembered where he was. "The Aurelia, my floor, my room." He tried to stand tall and failed. He left without slamming the door because the door was smarter than that. It closed itself with a soft whisper. Sloane wiped at her eyes, careful not to smear what the makeup artist had left. "I can't go home with him." "You're not," I said. "You're staying here. We'll put you in the 2nd bedroom. Tomorrow you decide what you want, without a folder in your hand." She nodded like someone accepting a blanket. "Thank you." Lucas stayed after she slipped into the guest room. He stood at the window with me and watched the city. We didn't touch. "I keep wanting to say this isn't my family," he said. "But it is." "It is," I said. "The question is what you do inside it." He nodded. "I'll call my mother in the morning. I'll tell her I'm done being the quiet one." "You told her tonight," I said. "Say it again tomorrow, then again the day after." He gave a crooked smile. Repetition builds muscle. Unfortunately, at 2:12 a.m., Ezra's cease and desist went out to Conrad and Victor. At 2:33, Rena texted me a screenshot of the filing office's overnight acknowledgement and a note memo to bank team drafted. Vendor reassurance queued. Coffee order for morning nuclear. I laughed alone in my throat. "You're getting a raise," I sent. "Accepting," she replied. I tried to sleep. My body refused. At 5:15, I gave up and showered. At 6:30, Anthony met me in the lobby with 2 lattes and a printed list. "Compliance walkthrough," he said, handing me the paper. "They'll check fire doors, grease traps, exit signage, liquor logs. They won't find a thing. We're buttoned." "They'll try to write something anyway," I said. "Then they can argue with my maintenance log and my laminated sole," he said. At 6:59, a trio in generic blazers arrived with clipboards and practiced frowns. One wore a badge, one wore a smirk. One wore cheap cologne and a wedding ring he kept twisting. "Compliance team," the smirk said. "Routine." "Nothing about this hour is routine," Anthony said pleasantly. "But we're delighted to welcome you. Ms. Bell, owner. Anthony, GM. Please sign in." They looked at me and blinked when the title landed. They recovered. Smirk-led badge, observed ring, took notes like he'd been told to earn his keep. We walked. They measured exit signs. They peered under bar mats. They opened a panel, found it labeled and clean, and looked vaguely disappointed. At the kitchen, Rachel stood with a hairnet on and a logbook open like a school teacher ready for a pop quiz. The grease trap records shone like a mirror. "Where's your most recent extermination report?" Smirk asked. Rachel slid it forward. "Yesterday. We schedule before every major event, twice during high season." He grunted. Ring poked his pen at a thermometer. Badge watched me instead of the stainless steel. "Everything looks adequate," Smirk said at last. Anthony smiled like a shark with dimples. "It's more than adequate, but I accept." They left with nothing but an hour wasted, and the sense that we would not be moved by shadows. "That's a report worth filing." Lucas texted from downstairs. "Coffee?" I almost said no out of habit. I said yes out of choice. We met in the cafe across the street, neutral ground by design. He looked tired and newly awake. "I called my father," he said without preamble. He said I was being dramatic. I said he was being criminal. He hung up. I called him back. He didn't answer. And your mother? She cried, he said. She said it was all her fault. I told her she was responsible for her part and not responsible for his. She didn't like that sentence. She said she would try. That's a start, I said. He wrapped both hands around his cup. What do you need from me today? Nothing heroic, I said. Just no secrets. He nodded. I can do that. Sloane texted me from the penthouse. I told Damon I'm not flying to Bora Bora. He said it's non-refundable. I said my self-respect is non-refundable. He hung up. Then, thank you. I sent her a heart and a room service menu. By noon, Ezra had confirmation from the filing office that any UCC submitted against Bellwether would be flagged for manual review. Vendors replied with screenshots of our reassurance memo and emojis that made my chest loosen. Rena sent a photo of Lily pretending to karate chop an imaginary filing. I showed it to Anthony. He laughed and then cried for 3 seconds and pretended he hadn't. At 2, my front desk pinged me. Mr. Hart is here to see you. Conrad. He came alone in a suit that could fund a small nonprofit's payroll for a quarter. He did not look like a man who planned to apologize. He looked like a man who planned to rearrange a room with his voice. I met him in a conference room with windows and a glass door. Transparency isn't just design, it's strategy. Mara, he said, as if we were old friends. Congratulations on saving the wedding. Congratulations on almost turning it into a crime scene, I said. His mouth tilted. I admire people who don't pretend. Me too, I said. Let's not pretend you weren't behind Valencia Partners. He didn't confirm. He didn't deny. He admired the molding. Beautiful crown, he said. Answer the question, I said. You've made yourself too expensive to buy, he said finally. So I tried to rent leverage. Find a different landlord, I said. He leaned forward. Be careful who you make your enemies. I'm careful, I said. That's why you're in a glass room at my table, and not the other way around. He smiled, and for the first time I saw the edge under the polish. Sloane likes you, he said. She takes after her mother in that way. Soft spots for strong women. Your daughter is stronger than you think, I said. We'll see, he said, standing. You won a skirmish. The market is the war. I don't fight markets, I said. I serve guests. Cute, he said, and left. I sat with that for a minute, then texted Sloane. Your father came. He tried charm. It didn't take. She replied, he's better at buying rooms than reading them. The day stretched and folded. We made lists and checked them twice. Ezra filed a notice with the state AG's office to put a thin layer of official glare on what had almost happened. Rena scheduled a private board call for Bellwether in case this turned into a longer campaign. Anthony bought the staff dinner from a taco truck because sometimes morale is salsa. At 5, Damon texted Lucas a photo of their childhood fort in the backyard, 2 chairs and a sheet between them. Remember this. We used to hide and swear we'd stick together. Lucas showed me. He thinks nostalgia is an argument, he said, almost smiling. What did you say, I asked? I said I'm not hiding anymore. We were still in the office at 7 when Sloane knocked on the door. She'd changed into jeans and a sweater. No veil, no train. Just a person with a spine. I called my father, she said, closing the door behind her. I told him I found the folder and gave it to you. He said I was naive. I said I was done being useful to men who call me naive when I want ethics. He said I was being emotional. I said I was making a decision. Then I hung up. How do you feel, I asked. Like a bridge just burned behind me, she said. And I'm warm for the first time. She handed me a small flash drive, navy velvet casing. There's more, she said. Emails, drafts, a spreadsheet labeled Valencia Timetable. I took it when I took the folder. I didn't know if I should, but I did. You should, I said. And you did. I looked at Lucas. He nodded at the drive. Let's give Ezra a bigger bonfire, he said. We plugged it in. Rena and Ezra joined by video. We scrolled. There it was, a tidy plan to file leak meat lenders to help and de-risk the distressed asset by forcing a sale in 90 days. The column labeled risks included exactly one line, MB unpredictability. It made me laugh. They'd predicted the one thing that saves me most days. Ezra whistled. This is the part of the movie where the jury gasps. Save a copy, I said, then make 3 more. Then bury one. He grinned. Already done. Sloane sat, folded her hands, and let her breath catch. What happens now? Now, I said, we do what we always do. We keep the lights on and the doors open. We protect our people. We let the other side know we're not prey. And we don't apologize for being exactly what we are. What are we, she asked. Dangerous to the wrong kind of man. She laughed, then bright and quick, and I felt the day shake off some of its dust. By 9, the building softened into evening. The compliance team didn't come back. Victor didn't call again. Damon sent 3 texts that went from defiant to pleading to quiet. Elaine left a voicemail that began with, "I'm sorry," and ended with, "Please come to Sunday dinner." I didn't delete it. I didn't answer either. I walked the lobby one last time. The Aurelia's marble threw back a warm light that made even tired people look kind. A couple at the bar toasted something small. A bellhop told a joke I've heard 100 times and still smiled at. Rachel waved goodnight with a stack of clean aprons under her arm. Anthony saluted with a clipboard like a shield he'd never drop. Upstairs, I found Lucas in the kitchen pouring tea he'd made wrong and was proud of anyway. Tomorrow, he said, handing me a mug, I'm meeting with a therapist. I found one who works with people who grew up in houses like mine. Good, I said. Tell them about fort sheets and forged signatures. I will, he said. And about the woman who reminded me that love without respect is theater. We drank in a silence that wasn't empty. Sloane texted from the guest room that she'd finally fallen asleep. I checked the locks. I checked the calendar. I checked myself. After midnight, I set the Navy folder back on the table and looked at my name in a hand that copied confidence, but didn't earn it. I thought of my parents' ledger and their coffee can of towels folded with care of a girl who believed the right choreography could hold a room together. She wasn't wrong. She just hadn't met the men who try to cut the music when they can't lead. I turned out the lights. If you think a forged signature and a failed lean were the last of their tricks, you don't know how people behave when they lose the story they wrote for you. The next move didn't come from Victor or Conrad. It came from someone I didn't expect, the person who'd been quiet at every meal, kind to every server, and missing from every plan until now. And he was about to ask me for something I swore I would never give. By morning, the hotel had that Sunday hush. I love light, footsteps, kinder voices, a lobby plant catching sun like it was being paid for it. We'd blocked the lean, fed the team, and sent the cease and desist. I thought the day might finally flatten out. At 9:12 a.m., Anthony called up from the front desk. "There's a Mr. Mercer here to see you," he said. Not Victor. Older, polite. He knows everyone's name already, which is confusing. "Put him in the Eaton room," I said. "I'll be down." The Eaton room is the smallest salon at the Aurelia. It holds 12 chairs and more secrets than I can count. I stepped in and knew immediately who he was, even though we'd never been introduced. The posture, the eyes that have watched 3 generations take themselves too seriously. A simple navy blazer. Shoes shined but not loud. And the way he stood when Lily brought water, he stood up to greet her, thanked her, asked how her mother's hip was doing. Only people who notice the right things have that habit. "Ms. Bell," he said, extending a hand. "I'm Abram Mercer." "Abe, please." "Mr. Mercer," I answered. "Mara." He smiled. "You know, my wife used to say a handshake is a contract for decent people and a formality for the rest." I always liked that. I sat. He didn't start with pleasantries. "I know what Victor and Damon tried to do," he said, eyes steady. "It's wrong. I won't dress it up. I'm here to ask you for something I doubt you'll give." "Try me." "Mercy," he said. "Not for them. For the people who would be hurt if this blows up the way it could." I didn't answer. He went on. "Anthony was a bellman when this building reopened," Abe said. "I came in that week, and he hauled my bag and refused a tip until I broke a 20 into 2 10s because he said ones were insulting. I liked him immediately." Elaine. "Don't worry, I'm not here to defend her, knows the florist's apprentice by name, because she used to be one. The staff, your contractors, the little businesses that orbit a place like this. If Victor drags you into a public fight, they'll feel the first chill. Markets spook easy." He paused. "I'm asking you to let me fix this inside the family before you take it outside." I had sworn hours earlier to never give quiet cover to that family again. Never to be their shield. Never to mistake keeping the peace for doing what's right. My mouth started to shape no. Then he did the one thing that made me hear him. He put something true on the table that cost him. "I control the family trust," he said. "Not Victor. He hates that. The bank he fronts for connects to the trust in ways a regulator would find interesting if they looked at them all at once. Victor thinks he owns the machine. He doesn't. I'm old. The machine knows my hands better than his. I can turn off valves he can't see. He let that sit. I will, if you give me 72 hours. You're asking me not to alert the press, I said. Not to forward our file to the AG. Not to call every lender they plan to reassure and tell them exactly what happened. I'm asking you to hold those triggers for 3 days while I extract my son from positions he never earned and rearrange the board where he pretends to command. He tilted his head. You don't need the public spectacle to win. You need structural change. So do I. What does structural mean to you? I asked. Victor resigns from any committee that touches compliance for 6 months minimum. Damon attends real-world ethics training, not a PowerPoint. The family issues a written apology to you, your company, and your staff. No euphemisms, no passive voice. All documents tied to Valencia get voluntarily turned over to your counsel, and if you wish to the AG without you having to serve anything. And his eyes softened. We start therapy as a family, with a real doctor who won't tell us what we pay them to tell us. He waited for me to laugh. I didn't. And what do I give you, I said. 72 hours, he said. And one more thing I can't demand. And you won't like Elaine for my son to be a father and a grandfather in public without headlines about fraud distracting from the stroller. I sat back. You're asking me to give Victor a soft landing. I'm asking you to let me land the plane before it hits the people on the ground, he said. And I'm telling you, if he refuses, I will bring in the agency myself and write the cover letter for them. He wasn't blinking. He was an old soldier who had decided what needed doing and was willing to carry his own bag. I thought of the staff, of the vendors, of Lily's hip surgery mother and Rachel's cousin, who'd just started nights. I thought of how fast money runs downhill. I thought of the feeling of being right versus the work of being effective. 72 hours, I said. But you don't get quiet in exchange for nothing. You get quiet while you implement. On paper, with signatures, mine included. He nodded. I brought a pen. Of course you did, I said. We started writing terms together on a yellow legal pad, like two people building a bridge, one line at a time. Immediate written acknowledgement from Victor and Damon to me, my staff, and my company of attempted fraudulent action with withdrawal of any claims or filings present or contemplated. Voluntary disclosure from the Mercers to our counsel of all documents related to Valencia Partners, including correspondence with third parties. Suspension of Victor from any compliance oversight, functions at his bank, and any charitable boards where he controls fiduciary processes for a minimum of 6 months, with notice to those organizations identifying the reason as an ethics breach, not a sabbatical. A donation from the Mercer Family Trust to the Bellwether Hospitality Scholarship Fund for frontline workers. Not to me personally, not to Bellwether, but to the people who press linens and lift trays and make beds. The number wasn't small. Public correction at Sunday family dinner, no spin. No misunderstanding. Words like wrong apologize, respect used in sentences with subjects and verbs. Family therapy starting within 14 days with a clinician not paid by the bank's executive wellness program. No retaliation, overt or covert, against any staff, vendor, or family member who cooperated with me. I wrote that one twice. He added a line in a handwriting that carried 60 years of contracts. Enforcement if any term is breached. Ms. Bell is free to proceed with full disclosure to regulators and press, and I will support. We both signed. He didn't ask to put it in a drawer. He asked for a copy and made sure mine went in a folder we both could see. Thank you, he said and stood. I'm going to make calls you've never seen me make. I'll look calm while I make them. I won't be. Mr. Mercer, I said, as he reached the door, you were kind to Lily. That matters more to me than what suit you're wearing right now. He tipped his head. The world stays standing because of people like Lily. My sons forget that. I try not to. He left. Anthony poked his head in the moment the door clicked. That was... He searched for a word. Steady. Get ready for movement, I said. That was the last quiet moment we'll have for 3 days. We didn't wait for them. We set our own table. At noon, I asked Rena to schedule a closed-door meeting in the Winter Garden, our bright glass conference space that makes people tell the truth, because there's nowhere for lies to sit. We invited Victor and Elaine Damon and Sloan Lucas and Abe. Anthony and Rachel sat with me not as props, but as witnesses for the people who'd be asked to smile through whatever came next. They arrived like characters in a play everyone had rehearsed alone. Victor with a jaw you could crack ice on. Elaine with a tissue already clenched. Damon with eyes half bloodshot, half defiant. Sloane calm in a way I recognized as practiced. Lucas alert and wary. Abe unhurried, already carrying the weight, so the rest of us didn't have to pretend to. I opened. We'll be brief. Here are the terms. They're not negotiable. We can sign, or we can do this in front of cameras and counsel. 72 hours. Your choice. Victor's laugh was short and wrong. You think you can dictate timelines to me? I don't think I said. I'm doing it. Abe slid the yellow pad across to his son. Victor glanced at the top page, saw his father's handwriting, and his expression shifted exactly 1 degree. It was the degree between I'm in charge and I'm at work. He read the first term. His face didn't move. He read the second. A muscle flicked in his cheek. He got to the donation line and looked up sharply. To housekeepers, he said, like the word was exotic. To the people this family uses up when it's stressed, I said. He looked at Abe. You co-signed this? Abe didn't blink. I drafted it. Damon leaned back, arms crossed. Why are we doing this here in her house? She's making a point. Yes, Anthony said mildly, that you don't own ours. Elaine spoke before Victor could start up again. Victor, sign it, she said. Her voice surprised me. It had a spine I hadn't heard. I'm tired. He looked at her like he had never seen her tired before. He looked at Lucas, who didn't look away. He looked at Sloane, who met his eyes without flinching. He looked at Abe and saw no path around the man who built his path. He signed. Not a flourish, just ink where ink needed to be. Damon waited a theatrical beat and tried a grin that never grew up. We're writing a check to Maids with Dreams, he said. Rachel leaned forward, smiling like a person who has lived on both sides of a line. The fund is called Bellwether Hospitality Scholarship, she said. My niece's tuition is one of those dreams. You could meet her if you want. She's more impressive than you. Damon's grin faltered. He signed. Elaine took the pen without being asked. She signed and touched the page with 4 fingertips after sealing it. Lucas signed next, not because the paper asked him to, but because he wanted his name where the right things live. We scanned. We emailed. We printed duplicates and put them in folders they couldn't deny later. Now the second part, I said. Words. Victor stiffened. This is unnecessary. Words built the mess, I said. Words can start the repair. Abe nodded once at his son and didn't fill the silence for him. Victor looked at me and at the window and at the reflection of himself in the glass. When he spoke, his voice had lost its marble polish. It was the sound of a man who is not used to the taste of humility and hasn't yet learned how to swallow it. Mara, he began, not Ms. Bell. I treated you like a variable to control instead of a person to respect. I tried to bend your life to fit my comfort. I authorized an action that crossed a line I told myself I could defend. I was wrong. I'm sorry. He didn't die saying it. The building didn't collapse. No lightning bolt, just a quieter room. Elaine went next. I let myself believe good manners could substitute for good behavior, she said. I spoke about you like you were less. I carried papers that should have burned my hands. I'm sorry. Damon cleared his throat. I wanted a win, he said. I tried to take a shortcut through your life to get it. I'm sorry. Sloane looked at him and didn't speak. Her silence did enough. Anthony and Rachel didn't have to say anything. But Anthony did. You'll forgive me if I still triple-check the locks, he said. We'll feed you if you come here. We'll also escort you out if you start playing games. That's fair, Victor said. And for once, I believed he understood what the word meant. We were done with signatures. We were not done. We set dates, the therapy intake, the bank notice, the board alerts. Abe would handle the trust mechanics. I didn't ask how. I didn't need to know where his levers were. I just needed to feel the machine slow under his hand. As they filed out, Elaine touched my arm. Do you want me at Sunday dinner? She asked. I want you at therapy, I said. Sunday dinner can wait. She nodded. Understood. Abe stayed back as the others left. You bought us a chance, he said. Thank you. You bought it, I corrected. With your name. That counts. He looked sad in a way I recognized the sadness of a man who sees what his children have become and sees his fingerprints anyway. I'll see you in 48 hours, he said. 72, I reminded him. He smiled. You'll see something by 48. 72 is insurance. The first 48 were a blur of choosing process over adrenaline. Ezra drafted the notices. Abe delivered them. The bank chair called me, voice full of corporate apology, to confirm Victor's voluntary suspension. A board where Victor had wielded veto power sent a terse email pausing his role and thanking him for prior service in that tone committees use when they've decided to remember you fondly and from afar. The scholarship wire hit faster than I expected. Rachel cried and then organized a fair way to allocate it because that's who she is. In the middle of the second day, I got an email from the Attorney General's office acknowledging receipt of the packet Abe had sent them himself in the interest of transparency and thanking him for his proactive candor. That sentence told me everything I needed to know. The file would sit open on a desk with a nameplate now. It wouldn't gather dust. It also wouldn't explode if no one struck a match. At hour 51, Damon showed up with a cardboard box. He found Sloane in the winter garden and set the box on the table like a dog brings back a mangled shoe. "I'm moving into a rental," he said, eyes bloodshot for reasons I didn't need explained. "Dad's not covering it. I'll cover it." "I can do that." He swallowed. "I'm my counselors on Tuesdays and Thursdays." Sloane watched him with the intimate knowledge of a person who once loved the man he thinks he is. "I hope you do all of it this time," she said, "not just the parts that make a cute story." He nodded. "I deserve that," he said. "I deserve a lot worse." She touched the box. Inside were cufflinks, wedding photos, a bottle of champagne they hadn't opened. She pushed the bottle back. "This one's for you when you're a person you respect," she said. "Don't open it first." He tried to smile. It hurt. He left with the box. At hour 65, Elaine texted me a photo of a yellow pad where she'd written reasons to stop carrying other people's messes. At hour 67, Victor forwarded a calendar invite to the first therapy session with a single line, "I'll be there." No theatrics. At hour 71, Abe sent a thumbs-up emoji and then a second message. "You'll hate that I text like a teenager. I'm practicing economy of language." At hour 72, exactly, Anthony knocked on my office door and held up a stack of confirmations, signed notices, scheduled sessions, delivered funds. "They did it," he said. "They did the opening act," I said. "Now we see if they can do the show." He nodded. "You'll know when they miss a cue." We were both smiling when Rena burst in, breathless and furious. She dropped her laptop onto the desk and spun it toward me. "Anonymous blog post," she said. "It's already up on 2 gossip sites and a whistleblower forum. Headline, Bellwether bleeds staff while owner plays queen. It's full of claims that you underpay housekeepers, that we hide injuries, that the scholarship is hush money, and that you fire anyone who unionizes." My stomach didn't drop. It tightened like a fist. "Source, anonymous handle," she said. "But the screenshots they used have metadata that points to a Gmail address Damon used for fantasy football in college and a burner Victor used for press strategy that we saw in the Valencia dump. It's sloppy. It's also sticky." Anthony swore in a language his grandma wouldn't approve of. Rachel walked in behind him, saw the page, and said nothing, which scared me more than swearing. "Staff will see this," she said finally. "They'll be hurt." "Then we answer," I said. "Publicly," Rena asked. "Internally first," I said. "Always. Then we decide how loud." My phone buzzed. "Abe?" "No, hello. Just, I didn't sanction this. I'll find it." I typed back, "Find or fix, preferably both." He replied, "Both." I stood. The room felt small. My body wanted to chase the lie tackle, sit on it until it stopped breathing. Instead, I thought of the promise I'd made to myself the day I canceled a wedding, no more reacting to their chaos like it was a rainstorm. Build the roof, keep my people dry. Town hall, I told Anthony. Main ballroom, staff only. 15 minutes. Bring mics, bring coffee, bring truth. He moved before I finished. Rachel texted her captains. Rena printed slides not because we needed slides, but because people trust things they can see. 10 minutes later, the ballroom filled with the people who actually make a hotel. Housekeeping in fresh polos, line cooks with flour on sleeves, front desk in navy, engineers in black because they like to pretend they're backstage even when they're heroes. Lily in the front row with her hair pulled back like she was ready to run the Navy. I stood on the stage where we'd toasted a couple 2 nights earlier and faced the people I care about more than I care about being right on the internet. "You've seen a blog post," I said, mic down, so my voice sounded like a person, not an announcement. "It says we hurt you. It says I don't see you. It says we use charity to buy silence. I'm not going to dignify lies with the same oxygen I give facts." So here are facts. We put numbers on the screen, wage bands transparent, and higher than the market, because I refuse to call barely livable a success. Injury reports with names redacted showing not a lack of accidents, because kitchens are sharp and gravity is rude, but a pattern of reporting and treatment we can defend. Photos of the scholarship recipients with their permission-holding certificates next to grandmothers who worked nights so their grandkids could work days. Here is where we're not good enough yet, I added. And I meant it. We are still understaffed on weekends sometimes. I still fail to thank you as often as you deserve. The breakfast rush still makes us forget to eat. We can fix staffing with better scheduling and more hires. I can fix gratitude by opening my mouth more. The breakfast rush will always be the breakfast rush, but we can add hands. A hand went up in the back. Mr. Alvarez from engineering. My nephew got hurt at a different hotel, he said. They told him to clock out before he went to urgent care. That's one of the places spreading this about you. They don't like that their housekeepers want to come work here. Then we're doing something right, I said. And we'll keep doing it, and we'll make it easier for them to come. Lily stood. Do you need us to post for you, she asked. Because I can outcomment any troll you throw at me. Laughter lifted the room. It mattered. I won't ask you to wade into that swamp for me, I said. We'll release a statement with receipts. We'll keep ours clean. We'll let the noise be noise. Rena stepped up with a slide that showed a QR code to a verified internal page where staff could read the exact memo line by line with links to documentation. Not glossy, honest. And if you have questions, she said, ask us here. Anonymous if you want. We'll answer within 24 hours, and if we don't, Lily is authorized to karate chop my door. She pumped a fist. It's true, she said. We finished with coffee and hugs, and a line of people who wanted to say they were angry on my behalf. I told them their anger was welcome, and asked them to turn it into the service that makes lies look silly. They know how to do that better than anyone. After the room emptied, I stood alone on the stage and let myself feel exactly 2 minutes of the kind of fury that makes your hands shake. Then I put it down. I had calls to make. First to Abe. It was Victor, he said before I asked. He thinks asymmetry is cute. I've cut access to the accounts he uses for strategy. Don't dignify the blog with a lawsuit. They won't win, and it will extend the life of the lie. Do your housework and keep receipts. We already did, I said. And if he pushes again, I push him into the regulator's lap and go to lunch. Make it a long lunch, he said, not laughing. Then to Lucas. I'm not going to ask if you're okay, he said. I'm going to ask what you want me to do. Talk to your students tomorrow about how not to be men who think other people's livelihoods are chess pieces, I said. Start there. I can do that, he said. And Mara, yes, I'm proud of you. I didn't say thank you. I said good, me too. By evening, the gossip sites had started to find other shiny things like a reality star's meltdown. The forum post stayed up because forums rarely take down what keeps their ad impressions alive. Ours stayed up too, the memo, the receipts, the faces in uniforms that put rumors to bed. I slept a little that night. Not because the fight was over, because I knew who I was in it. You'd think the 72 hours would end with a bow. They didn't. They ended with a knock at my door from a courier carrying a cream envelope with a return address I didn't recognize, and a name I hadn't heard since the day I bought my first motel with a loan that smelled like risk and coffee. Inside a letter asked me for the one thing I never loan. Not money, not my venues, not my name. It asked for my story. And if I said yes, it would reach millions who needed to hear it and set fire to everything we'd just built. The envelope was thick cream and formal. The name on the corner snapped me straight back to a dusty office where I'd signed my first purchase and breathed through the fear. Piper Lang. Back then, she'd been a city beat reporter who wrote 2 paragraphs about a young operator betting on a forgotten motel. I told her no when she asked for an interview. I was protect the mystery, not tell the story. She'd sent a kind note anyway. Someday tell it. Someone will need it. Now her letter was 3 sentences long. Mara, I'm producing a national series on coercive tactics in small hospitality. Fraudulent liens, shell-shells, pressure leaks. We've found a pattern. Your name came up from multiple sources. I want your story on the record. Millions will hear it. You'll help people. It will also cost you. Piper. I read it twice. The quiet of my penthouse felt louder. Lucas knocked and stepped in. "You're up early," he said, then noticed the envelope and the way I was holding it. "Bad?" "Depends," I said. I passed it to him. He read eyes moving left to right in small, sharp flicks. "She's not wrong about the cost." "She's not wrong about the need," I said. He looked at me. "You want to do it." "I want the lie to stop being the only voice in the room," I said. "I want owners with less muscle to have something to point at when someone slides a UCC across a table and calls it normal." He set the letter down. "And what does it do to the thing Abe is trying to build?" "Maybe nothing," I said. "Maybe everything." Sloane patted in hair, in a knot, hotel slippers, loud on the hardwood. She read the letter over my shoulder and let out a breath. "She covered a condo scam my mother's friend fell into," she said. "Made it right, or as right as you can make a $200,000 mistake. She'll tell it straight," I said. "She'll also name people," Lucas said. "Or they'll name themselves when they recognize the story." I heard the warning under his words and the respect. No plea, no not now. Just the truth laid next to me. It helped. My phone buzzed. "Abe?" Short as always, walk. I met him at the Winter Garden. Morning light ran down the glass like it had made a promise. He wore the same navy blazer as yesterday and the same eyes that missed nothing. "I know about the letter," he said before I sat. "Piper called me 2 years ago for a different story. She is fair. She is thorough. She is a storm. She wants the Valencia files," I said. He nodded. "And your voice. What happens to the therapy and the board notices?" "If I go on camera," I asked. "Nothing," he said. "Those are already set. What happens to Victor is different. He will be humiliated. He will choose between humility and rage. He picks poorly when he's inflamed." "What happens to your trust?" I asked. "I retool," he said. "I already am. You won't break anything that deserves to stand." He watched my face. "You're thinking about the staff." "Always," I said. "They carry the first gust." "Then set terms," he said. "Not to muzzle the truth. To protect the people who didn't engineer the harm." He put a folded page on the table, his handwriting precise. A list of what he thought I should ask for. No filming on bellwether premises. No hidden cameras in staff spaces. No shots of badges, schedules, or faces without consent. An embargo on names of junior employees and vendors. Fact-checking with our counsel on any mention of process filings compliance, so the piece educates, not just entertains. A clear statement that attempted fraud came from external parties, not the hotel industry, as a monolith, so other honest operators aren't collateral. A sentence at the end directing viewers to resources, a hotline for fraudulent filings, a sample dispute letter, a list of state offices that actually answer phones. "You wrote me a producer's memo," I said. "I wrote you a shield," he said. "Use it, or don't. You'll decide fine." We sat for a minute in the kind of silence people who've both hovered over a ledger can share. He stood. "Whatever you choose," he said, "I will not ask you to flinch. Flinching is why we're here." When he left, I called the number at the bottom of Piper's letter. She answered with a hello that carried coffee and deadlines. "Mara," she said, "I hoped you'd call." "I have conditions," I said. "I hoped you would," she said. We met that afternoon in a rental studio with black walls and white floors and no trap doors. She was older than the last time I'd seen her, more deliberate. She didn't pretend we were friends. She also didn't pretend I was prey. "Why now?" she asked after we shook hands. She didn't turn the camera on yet. She wanted my mouth before my posture. "Because people with fewer resources than me are getting steamrolled by a trick that looks like a form," I said. "Because my anonymity bought me peace but helped no one else. Because silence feels like complicity after a certain kind of night." She listened the way good interviewers do, no nods, no soft mim-heems, just the steadiness that makes you hear yourself clearly. "I want to talk about tactics, not gossip," I said. "I won't name 2 men until a regulator chooses to. I will hand you documents that show a pattern that goes beyond my life. I'll name names if I can corroborate," she said. "You don't have veto over other sources. You do have control over what comes out of your mouth. And I'll fact-check any procedure with your counsel so we don't teach bad law." "And my people?" I asked. She slid a release across the table but sat on her hands instead of pushing it at me. "No shots in staff spaces, no minors, no faces without consent. We'll blur backgrounds. We're not here to hurt dishwashers. We're here to teach bankers and owners how to behave." And at the end I said, "You put resources. Not just a, 'see you next week,' a list that someone can clip and bring to a clerk." She smiled. "You should have been a producer." I am, I said, just of a different show. We shook on it. We scheduled the sit-down for the next morning in a neutral loft. She wanted natural light. I wanted distance. It worked. That evening, Lucas and I sat at the counter and ate takeout tacos because Anthony said morale is salsa, and he's right. I told him my plan. He didn't try to change it. I want to be there, he said. Not on camera. In the hall. You don't owe me guard duty, I said. I owe me a seat in the new story, he said. Sloane texted me a photo of the shoes she'd wear if she came along sneakers. We run if we have to, she wrote. It made me laugh out loud. It made me breathe. Elaine called. Her voice was raw from the week. I heard she said, Victor will do what he wants, I said. You can do what's right without asking him first. She didn't argue. She said, tell the truth. I'll sit in the pew where I belong. Conrad Hart's assistant emailed one line that made my skin feel the way it does when a storm pressure drops fast. Mr. Hart would like to offer a solution that avoids further public confusion. A friendly investment, a partnership announcement, shared press. I replied with a link to the word no defined 6 times and forgot the rest. At 9 a.m., I sat in a high-backed chair in a room that smelled like sawdust and new paint. A crew clipped a mic to my lapel and fussed with powder that made me look less like I'd slept 2 hours. Piper sat across from me in jeans and a blazer, and a stare that has made CEOs lie less than usual. We start with scene, she said, then we teach, then we end with hope. Okay, I said. She lifted a hand, camera rolling salate. The clap snapped the air clean. Where were you when you learned someone planned to file a lien against your company? She asked. In a bridal suite that still smelled like hairspray, I said, holding a navy folder I hadn't been meant to see. And what did you do next? I called my assistant. I called my counsel. I called my general manager. Then I made a list. Lists keep your brain from becoming a hall of mirrors. What is a UCC1? She asked, plain as chalk. A notice that says someone claims an interest in your stuff, I said. It's useful when it's real and predatory when it's fake. Predators use the fact that clerks file first and ask later. They weaponize bureaucracy. You fight it by not blinking and by filing first with proof. We walked through the timeline without drama in my voice, because the facts were dramatic enough. The forged signature, the 9:15 a.m. slot, the compliance walkthrough attempt, the flash drive labeled Valencia timetable, the way a family can become a pressure machine when it confuses love with leverage. Piper didn't push me to name Victor or Conrad. She didn't have to. She had other sources. She kept circling back to 2 points. How do you keep your people safe, and what should someone do when a similar folder lands in their lap? Call your bank and ask them to set a flag so any lien triggers a human. I said, send a fraud alert to the filing office with copies of your ID and any documents you have. Have a lawyer draft a 1-page letter that says, we object, before the other side can post a press release to LinkedIn. And tell your vendors the truth so they don't guess the worst. Somewhere in the middle, the crew's boom operator forgot to be a boom and became a person listening. He blinked fast and wiped his eye with his sleeve. I liked him for that. We finished. She turned off her mic first to show me hers had been cut. You know this will make you a target for a week, she said. I've been a target in private, I said. I'd rather be one in a way that helps someone. She nodded. Resources at the end. Yes, I said. And one more ask, credit the housekeeping fund with a link. Not to flatter me, to make that wire do more. Done, she said. Outside, Lucas stood in the hall with 2 coffees and a face that looked like relief and a bruise. He squeezed my hand and didn't say, you were great. He said, you told it simple. That's the highest compliment in my house. We went back to the Aurelia. Work doesn't pause because you filmed your life. A pipe still needed a part. A bus still arrived early. The world doesn't hold your place in line. The episode dropped 2 nights later at 8 p.m. Eastern. Piper texted a single emoji, like a candle lit in a window. I watched in my office with Anthony, Rena, Rachel, and Lily because I wanted us to see the thing together. Lucas and Sloane sat on the floor because they're both over formal chairs when it's real. Piper set the tone with a story about a caterer in Phoenix who woke up to find a lien he'd never signed and a bank that paused his credit until he proved a negative. She cut to me explaining the form like I was teaching a class. She layered in 3 other owners whose faces were shadowed and voices filtered, then a policy expert who looked like every librarian who saved you in high school. She never said Mercer. She never said Hart. She didn't have to meet hook names for the lesson to land. Then she did the thing I asked to screen. With a hotline, a template letter, and a sentence, I carved into my head the first time I saw a lobby. Fall quiet for the wrong reason. Respect is minimum. Everything else is negotiation. When it ended, the room was wet-eyed and fierce. Rachel blew her nose like a trumpet. Lily clapped once loud. Anthony leaned back and said to the ceiling, "We will not be moved." My phone vibrated on the table like a live thing. Hundreds of messages, owners, chefs, housekeepers, night auditors, people whose bodies ache at 3 a.m. in 50 states. "Thank you. We used your letter." I thought I was alone. The blowback came too. Anonymous accounts, a blog calling me the Queen of Crying Wolf, an email that contained one sentence and a photo of my building from across the street at night. Ezra forwarded that one to a friend with a badge before I could even add a subject line. Security doubled shifts. Anthony did his quiet sweep with the engineer who knows every inch of this place like a prayer. We weren't brave, we were prepared. Abel called. "You lit the candle without burning the house," he said. Victor is furious. He can be furious in a room with a therapist tomorrow. "Good," I said. "Tell him to be on time." Elaine texted a photo of her television, paused on the resource screen. I wrote down the numbers she said. For the women at my charity who still think they're supposed to be grateful for the wrong things. Sloan posted the link and a caption that didn't mention family but didn't hide truth. When someone tries to turn your life into a lever, call it by its name and cut the rope. Conrad sent no email. A junior counsel from his office sent a letter reserving all rights in case defamatory suggestions had been made. Ezra framed it. The frame read, "Reserving all rights to be ignored." Lucas went to campus the next morning and taught his class on Gothic ribs like nothing had happened. Then he added 3 minutes to the end about what it means to stand between a cathedral and a mob and decide which one you'll shore up. Half the room stayed after to talk about families. By the weekend, 2 other shows called. I said no. One story is enough for a season. I didn't want to turn my life into a tour. Sunday night, there was a small knock at my office door. Damon stood there in a shirt that fit and eyes that didn't try to turn me into a mirror. "I watched," he said, "twice." "Okay," I said. "I have a thing to ask you," he said. "And I know how it sounds. You can throw me out after I say it." "Say it." "Teach me how to do something real," he said. "Not capital R real estate. Something that fixes, sweeping floors, booking tables." Sitting with Rena at 3 in the morning, when the night audit hiccups. I don't care if it's guest services at the desk at 2 a.m. I need to be useful to people I can't sell to. I need to start somewhere that makes me small on purpose. I stared at him for a full, slow breath. "You think working here will absolve you. I think working here might teach me not to ask to be absolved," he said. "I don't want a title. I want a schedule." Behind him, Lucas leaned on the doorframe and didn't coach, didn't save, didn't smooth. Sloan stood a step back. Not smiling, not pleading, just watching a man try a new language. "You'll have a manager who is not me," I said. "They will write you up if you're late. They will send you home if you talk down to staff. You will not tell anyone your last name. You will be D. Mercer on the schedule, and if anyone asks, it stands for dishwasher." "I'll wear it on my chest," he said. "You will not work here to be seen," I said. "You will work here to see." "I understand," he said. His voice didn't crack, his pride did. 2-week trial, I said. Graveyard shift. If Anthony says it's a fit at the end, we'll talk about week 3. Anthony appeared as if summoned. He had, of course, been on the other side of the door with his ear to it like a cat. "We have a 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. slot," he said. "Laundry lobby runs trash out inventory in." Damon nodded. "I'll be early," he said. "Don't be early," Anthony said. "Be on time." Early is a flex. On time is respect. Damon swallowed. "On time," he said. He left to sign paperwork with HR. Lucas stepped inside hands and pockets. "You sure?" "No," I said. "But I'm sure about the part where he cleans trash cans without posting it." Lucas nodded. "It'll be ugly." "I want ugly," I said. "It's honest." The building hummed the good hum, the one that says sheets are being folded, and the ice machine is trying its best, and 2 bellhops are negotiating who gets to run the late luggage. I turned off my office light and walked the floor. Lily was teaching a new host how to say no without turning guests into enemies. Rachel was writing notes on next week's menu that looked like a song. Anthony was labeling a shelf because he labels shelves until they forget what chaos felt like. My phone buzzed one last time. Piper. You did the hard part. Now do the boring part. Boring keeps buildings standing. On it, I texted back. If you think a late-night TV segment and a graveyard shift fixed what 3 years of bad habits built, you've never tried to rebuild anything with people you love watching. The last part of this story isn't about drama. It's about the kind of work no one claps for the days stacked like plates. The apology said, again on time. The new chairs we put in the lobby for women like my mother, whose feet always hurt, and who still smiled at strangers like they were a reason to try. And it's about the choice in front of me that I'd been avoiding since the day I put on a simple pearl necklace and told myself secrecy was safety, what to do with a marriage once truth lives in it. The morning after the episode aired, the building felt steady. No sirens, no whispers at the front desk, just carts rolling linen coffee, warming hands, doors opening and closing on time. Piper had texted, "Do the boring part," so I did. I made oatmeal on the stove and answered 37 emails before 9. I signed vendor confirmations. I replied to a dishwasher asking for Tuesday nights off for class. I approved a light fixture for the 4th floor corridor. Nothing glamorous, all necessary, but the boring work couldn't choose for me. I still had one decision left: the marriage. I booked us a room at a neighborhood community center. Beige walls, metal chairs, a whiteboard with a crooked grid someone had left up from last night's tutoring. No view, no strings, no sentimental tricks. Lucas arrived with a notebook and no speech. "I don't want a scene," I told him. "I want a plan." He sat. "Me too." I pulled a folded page from my bag. "This is the only way I try again," I said. We write a contract, not because paper fixes people, because words focus them. We called it the truth contract. Short lines, clear terms. Weekly therapy. No skipped sessions. No work emergency excuses. Monthly check-ins at the cafe where we met. 1 hour, no phones. One question: what did I get right? What did I miss? Family boundaries in writing. Sunday dinners optional. If we go together. If they disrespect, we leave together. Financial clarity. A post-nuptial agreement protecting bellwether. Our home and each other's autonomy. Lawyers present. No pressure, no hidden clauses. Honesty rules, no secrets about family pressure. No protecting the other by withholding what hurts. Time limit 90 days to live it. At the end, decide yes or no. No limbo. We both signed. The air didn't change. My shoulders did. He looked at the page and then at me. "I accept your terms," he said. "I have one to add." "What?" "Consequences," he said. "If I break a rule, you don't bargain with me. You act, you leave, or you tell the board, or you call the therapist in the moment. No rescue. No giving me one more chance because I look sorry." I wrote it down. Agreed. Yee. Therapy first. A tiny office with plants that tried their best, and a therapist who did not blink under storm weather. Lucas told the story of his family like someone reading a map he'd memorized but never understood. I told the story of hiding my strength like it was a virtue when it was also a shield. Our therapist held the room when we wanted to slip out of it. The first Sunday dinner, under the new rules, was quiet and tight. Victor poured water and said nothing. Elaine laid out napkins like placemats at a high school cafeteria. Abe sat between them and passed the salad first to me. Lucas watched the table like a lifeguard. Halfway through, Elaine reached for a safe topic: weather, or charity, or roast tenderness. Then she stopped and surprised herself. "I bought a stack of copies of that episode's resource screen," she blurted. "I keep one in my handbag for women who tell me their husbands handle everything. I keep a pen with it. It wasn't grace, it was effort." I nodded. Good. Victor tried a joke. The room didn't give him a laugh for free. He didn't push. That was new. We stayed 45 minutes. Then we left together. Lucas didn't look back to check whether he needed permission. That was also new. At home, we tore down walls. Not metaphor, actual drywall. We turned the unused study into a room I could work in without hiding. He moved his books out of their solemn rows and into the living room where spines could breathe. We gave each item a name that wasn't code desk, not consulting corner, ledger, not the old notebook. We put the truth contract on the fridge with a magnet shaped like a grapefruit. If a guest saw it, good. Let them see the terms of our peace. The postnup took 3 meetings and 2 lawyers. We put assets on the table like cards in a game with no bluffing. The agreement protected the company, the buildings, the cash, the retirement accounts. If we broke, neither could hurt the other's work. We structured it to be fair and waterproof. When we signed, I didn't feel romance. I felt safe. That's what I needed to feel. We added a small clause that was all heart, a joint fund to pay for therapy for employees who asked. No questions, no HR hoops. Our therapist helped us draft the policy so it wouldn't become another form that scares people. In the middle of our 90 days, life kept happening. Damon started his graveyard shift. Day 1, he showed up in a blazer. Lily sent him home and texted me, "He'll learn or he'll leave." He came back in a plain black t-shirt and sneakers. He folded towels until 2. He miscounted inventory at 3. He mopped a lobby spill at 4. He tried to chat with the night auditor at 5 and got shooed. At 6, he looked like a man who had finally met a task that didn't care about his last name. Week 2, he stopped wearing cologne. He stopped calling the engineers sir. He filled the linen shelves in symmetrical stacks because Anthony loves symmetry. He learned the names of the regulars who wander the lobby at the worst hour because grief or jet lag won't let them sleep. One night, he found a 7-year-old crying by the elevators at 2:13 a.m., holding a stuffed otter with one eye. He sat on the carpet and asked the otter what it needed. Then he offered hot cocoa and a tour of the lobby plants. The child smiled. The otter nodded. Damon walked them back to their room and fixed the keycard that had blinked red and made everything worse. He came back to the desk and wrote the story on a sticky note with a timestamp and left it for me. I kept it. Sloane watched him work without narrating it online. She moved into a small apartment with plants that survived because she watered them. She joined a clinic board that didn't post photo backdrops at galas. She went to therapy alone. She saw Damon on Thursdays at a coffee shop. She let him speak and did not fill his sentences for him. She did not take him back. She told him she would know when it was time to decide and would not decide under pressure. He accepted that without begging. That was different. Elaine started showing up at scholarship workshops with quiet hands. She didn't try to run the room. She stacked chairs. She brought snacks that weren't about her. She wrote 2 handwritten apology notes to staff she had cut with party smiles for 3 years. She didn't include a check. She didn't include a favor. Just the words and a promise to behave. One note went to Lily. Lily texted me a photo of it with, "I'm keeping it in my locker as a reminder that people can change, or at least attempt it." Abe kept his promise. He closed valves I didn't know existed. He sent notices that made committees reevaluate what they had been ignoring for seasons. He called me when the last file was processed and said it is finished in a tone that meant the chapter, not the war. Victor went to therapy because he had made a deal with his father and my pen. He went angry. He stayed irritated. He didn't turn into a sweater overnight. He did start a list of how many times he wanted to interrupt a woman in any conversation. He showed the list to me one Sunday. He had circled 13. He circled fewer 3 weeks later. He hated that metric and used it anyway. That was a start. I worked. We cleaned a chiller that had been humming wrong. We replaced a supplier who cut corners. We tripled the scholarship intake and did not allow speeches. We built a 1-page fraud fight guide with the AG's office and gave it away to anyone with a printer. We hosted a quiet industry roundtable and wrote a clean paper pledge so small operators could tell lenders and vendors where they stood. 27 signed the first week, 52 by the third. Not splashy, useful. Few late punches came. Another anonymous post tried to paint our fund as a bribe. We answered with receipts and went back to work. A lobby rumor said I was running for something. I said I was on time checks and fresh coffee. People laughed and stopped asking. The 90-day mark arrived like a date on a calendar that had chosen me. We met at the cafe where we wrote the contract. Same table, same light through the window, soft and indifferent. We brought our notebooks. Lucas had pages of entries, not grand reflections, small ones. Week 4, he said, reading, I told my mother we were leaving dinner after the third passive-aggressive comment. We left after 2. I felt sick and steady at once. I didn't ask you to make it okay. Week 7. I said I told you the truth about a night I wanted to lay my head down and not be strong for anyone. You brought noodles and left without hovering. He smiled. Week 9, he said I took my father off speakerphone when he started rewriting the family calendar. I said no. I hung up. I didn't text you for applause. I added week 11 you came to the staff town hall and sat in the back row and said nothing. We sat with the stacks of small. Sometimes that's where restoration lives. I took a breath. I can't go back to a marriage built on silence, I said, but I'm willing to move forward into one built on sentences that cost us both. I'm here, he said. No platform, no plea. Just here. We sign a second contract, I said. Shorter this time. It says one word. What word? Stay? He swallowed. I want to. We renew vows, I said. Not in front of a crowd. On the roof. At dawn. You bring one sentence. I bring one. Abe witnesses. No rings. No aisle. Just 2 people agreeing to stay if the other keeps telling the truth. Okay, he said. I'll write one sentence. We did it 2 days later. The city woke under our feet like a living thing. The roof was quiet except for an engineer checking a panel who pretended he didn't see because he loves us. Abe brought coffee and a pen because Abe brings coffee and a pen to everything. Lucas went first. He faced me in the morning and said, I will not trade your dignity for my peace. My turn. I said I will not shrink to fit your comfort. Abe nodded. Good sentences, he said. Not pretty. True. We stood in that ordinary light with our extraordinary relief. No applause. No cake. Just a pair of promises with ballast. After we went downstairs and opened the hotel. That felt like the right order. Damon finished his 2-week trial and asked for 2 more. Anthony said yes. By week 6, Damon could fold a fitted sheet at speed without cursing. By week 8, he could spot the guest who needed directions before they asked. At week 10, Lily handed him a keycard reader and said, fix the jam. He did and didn't take a selfie. He still had a long road. He was on it. Sloane asked him to meet her in the same coffee shop where they had been careful for weeks. She put a small box on the table. He froze. Relax, she said. It's not a ring. It's your apartment key. For a week, while they fix your plumbing. It makes sense, practical words. But her eyes were clear. Do you want me back? He asked. I want you to understand why you want me, she said. I'm not a prize. I'm a person. The person you are now might fit me. Keep being him long enough for me to believe he stays. He nodded. I will. Elaine asked to host the scholarship orientation. Rachel said yes and set conditions. No speeches. No photographs without consent. Elaine stood in the corner and approached after with a plate of rice and chicken for a high school senior who was too nervous to eat. My hands shake too when people say nice things, she said. Eat anyway. The girl smiled and took the fork. Elaine smiled like she'd learned a new trick. It wasn't a trick. It was kindness. Victor kept going to therapy. He kept interrupting. He kept counting. He kept writing down how many times he wanted to correct a son who was finally talking about a childhood table where only one person ever got the good piece of chicken. He showed up to a session and said, I didn't interrupt once today. And the therapist said, you counted that, and he glared, and then laughed in a short bark at himself. Progress isn't pretty. Abe started leaving me voicemails with pieces of his story I hadn't asked for, and he needed to tell. About the time he let his father bulldoze a decision and watched the fallout 20 years later. About the first time he poured water for the help, and the help kept standing because a man like him didn't pour. About the day he changed his mind about who deserved deference. He didn't ask me to absolve his sons. He didn't absolve himself. He wanted to put the ledger straight. I let him. We launched the Clean Paper Pledge publicly with a list of signers and an FAQ. The FAQ was the important part. It told small owners how to protect their signatures, set alerts with state offices, and create chains of custody for documents so no one could slide a form through a side door. We made the language plain. We put translations on it. We printed copies for people without printers. The downloads trickled at first. Then they poured. One afternoon, a box arrived at the front desk, addressed to me. No return label. Inside a coffee can and a ledger with blank lines and a note from one small desk to another. Keep it honest. I did not know who sent it. I kept the can on my office shelf next to the pearl necklace I wore the day I canceled a wedding and rescued myself. At 90 days plus one, Lucas and I went back to our fridge and added a new magnet under the truth contract. It said next month. We left it blank. We'll fill it every 30 days. That's how we keep ourselves from thinking we're done. On a Tuesday, a former staffer from a competitor hotel stopped me in the lobby. "Your video," she said, "helped my boss understand why his signature lives in a safe now." She laughed. He even bought a fireproof box, a real one, not the cute one from a craft store. I fist bumped her like we were 12. "We love a safe," I said. People started sending me their small wins. A cafe owner in Omaha who filed a fraud alert before a lien could land. A motel manager in El Paso who printed our checklist and taped it to the break room fridge. A night auditor in Tallahassee who asked her boss for therapy money with a copy of our policy in her hand. They weren't my victories. They felt like family anyway. The anonymous blog kept chirping. We kept receipts. It's a rhythm. Noise rises. Work answers. Noise moves on. Work stays. Toward the end of the season, I stood in the Aurelia's ballroom at a scholarship reception we do quietly. No speeches, just envelopes and whispered pride. Lily's niece wore a navy dress and carried a backpack already full of nursing textbooks. Mr. Alvarez's nephew had a chef's jacket over his arm and eyes that had slept 3 hours and didn't care. Rachel's cousin, Yes, the night person, wore a grin that made me want to add 3 more zeros to the fund. We took one photo of the group for internal records and one photo of the buffet so the cooks could critique themselves. Then we ate and cleaned and left the room better than we found it. That night, Lucas and I walked home. He took my hand like it was allowed. It was. We passed a couple arguing on the corner about whether to buy a couch or a plane ticket. We looked at each other and smiled. We'd had that argument once. We bought neither. We paid the plumber. It was the right call. He stopped under a streetlight and turned me toward him. "I know this isn't a movie," he said. "I know there's no score to swell when I say this. I'm grateful. Not because you took me back, because you didn't. You let me stand where a partner stands and earn that place every day." "I'm not grading you," I said. "I'm watching." "Keep watching," he said. We went home. We put our shoes by the door in a line that made sense. We brushed our teeth and didn't talk through the foam. We got into bed on our own sides. We didn't hold hands. We didn't have to. The next morning, I walked the lobby and said good morning to a bellhop who will run this place one day if I do my job right. The plant by the window caught sun like it meant it. The building hummed the good hum. A woman at the desk asked for directions to a museum I love. I drew her a route that avoided the busy intersection and took her past a pastry shop. She smiled like I'd told her a secret. Maybe I had. Before I left for a meeting, I stood in the doorway of the Aurelia's kitchen and watched 2 line cooks move around each other with the grace of people who know where the other will be before they get there. It looked like a marriage that workspace made on purpose, knives kept sharp for the right reasons, heat used to cook and not to burn cleanup done by whoever's hands were free. I think that's my ending. Not the rooftop words. Though I needed them. Not the episode, though it mattered. Not the yellow pad with Abe's handwriting, though I'm keeping it. My ending is the kitchen at 10:07 a.m. On a Wednesday, with burners going and water running, and a server laughing at a joke told bad, and a manager writing thank you on the whiteboard because he remembered. It's the boring part, the part that saves everything. If you've been listening all this time, thank you. If you've ever taken the long way to do the right thing, tell me in the comments. If you've ever had to draw a line and then stand on it until your legs shook, I see you. Like and subscribe if this left you with something sturdy to hold. And please, for the housekeepers and night auditors and cooks and bellhops in your life, remember the sentence that kept our walls upright. Respect is the minimum. Everything else is negotiation.